CNN has obtained new surveillance video from the fatal shooting of the UnitedHealthcare CEO. And we do want to warn you that the video is, of course, disturbing.
CNN Bryn Gingras joins us. Bryn, take us through this video.
Yeah, Phil and Brianna. So we are only showing a few seconds of this video that CNN obtained, obviously, because it is very alarming to watch. Essentially, what we see in that video is the CEO, UnitedHealthcare, Brian Thompson, walking toward the hotel here behind me. And behind him comes the suspected gunman that police are still searching for. So you could see how he approaches Thompson from the back. Before then, where we freeze the video, he fires those shots at Thompson. What you do not see from these 5 seconds, and I can tell you, is that we also see someone sort of running the opposite direction. So that is something, of course, that police are going to be looking into in this video, breaking it down frame by frame by frame to kind of figure out who might have witnesses. They, of course, are going to want to talk to anyone who might have witnessed this. Again, it happened at the really front step of this entrance of this hotel. So there's possible some security there as well. And then, of course, follow the path of that gunman. As we already have learned, he flees from the scene, going down a back alley behind a theater.
Now, what you just seen was CNN's comment section.
CNN has obtained...
Yes, that was CNN comment section reacting to CEO Brian Thompson's execution. I will admit, prior to this, I didn't know anything about Brian Thompson whatsoever. I'm still getting brushed up on all the knowledge. That's the reason why I didn't react to this yesterday. I wanted to make sure I had some level of understanding. But yes, this is tolerant CNN viewers. They're always tolerant. I would say that's just pure evil. Now, this is without me having any knowledge of who Brian Thompson is or his involvement in the government. Yeah, somebody said blame Obama, not UnitedHealthcare. If they weren't paying out claims, then it explains why the company was so profitable. Sorry, sympathy requires prior authorization. Somebody quotes thoughts and copays to the family, somebody wrote. Yeah. So Brian Thompson was the chief executive officer of UnitedHealthcare, the insurance arm of the United Health Group, from April 2021 until ultimately his death yesterday. He was born July 10th, 1974, and graduated from the University of Iowa in 1997. Now, in May 2004, Thompson was involved in a lawsuit for alleged fraud and insider trading related to not disclosing a U.S. Department of Justice antitrust investigation into United Health Group, where he and other executives sold shares before the investigation became public knowledge. And then obviously on December 4th, 2024, he was fatally shot and was described as a targeted attack outside of the hotel in Midtown Manhattan while attending United Health Group's annual investor conference. His wife, Paulette Thompson, mentioned he had received threats previously, possibly related to issues with insurance coverage. At the time of his death, no arrests have been made, and the motive for the shooting is still under investigation. So yeah, this is the only knowledge that I have of him right now. Somebody wrote what happened to the CEO, the same thing that happened to Seth. I don't even know. But I would say, man, that comment section was just disgusting and evil. Now we're finna check out Shipwreck, cause she's saying delay, deny, and defend. The narrative surrounding the assassination of CEO Brian Thompson is slowly starting to look like a disgruntled customer who was seeking revenge on their health insurance company. Maybe. But if this eventually goes White House cocaine code with no identification or arrest, then I'll have a harder time believing that at face value. Time will tell.
Deny, defend, and depose for the words that were encrypted on the shell casings that were found at the unaliving scene of Brian Thompson. Eerily similar to Delay, Deny, and Defend, which is a book written about how insurance companies do certain tactics so that they don't have to pay your claim. Those tactics include delaying the process to frustrate claimants, denying coverage by citing policy terms, and defending against claims in court to avoid payout. Still ain't caught the guy, even though he did what he did in broad daylight during the busiest time of downtown New York City. He did what he did in front of multiple witnesses. He did what he did in front of multiple CTV cameras. And then after he was done doing what he did, he got on a city bike, which can be tracked by the city, and rode away. Before he did what he did, he was witnessed walking around the area for hours beforehand on camera by people that worked at the shops. I guess there's a Starbucks down there. Even video surveillance of the whole act. Wasn't trying to hide. He wasn't trying to be sneaky about any of this. It wasn't just about what was going on with United Health. This dude was sending a message, and the message wasn't necessarily just about Brian Thompson. The narrative that is coming out of this is slowly being inched towards a person who was frustrated with the system, possibly because they've gone through the system of insurance and been denied, and maybe they lost family, to like a disgruntled person who was pissed off at their insurance company. It's entirely possible. Insurance companies scam people all the freaking time. They are well known for doing these kind of things up until the people die. I mean, they are well known for denying medications that people need to extend or save their lives or to get better. A lot of conversations about the firearm that he was using. Some say that he looked like a pro, that he was catching his casings as he went. Others say he looked like the gun jammed and this wasn't necessarily a pro. He may have been kind of knowing how to do this, but he wasn't a pro at it by any means. Can't deny is that when you watch the video of it actually happening, he was very cool, very calm, very collected. He knew what he was doing, even if he didn't know how to do it right then and there. It wasn't like a chaotic, he ran up out of the streets and did what he did and then ran off. It seemed very coordinated. There are multiple CCTV footages of him being on the phone.
Strangely calm.
Like, very coordinated, and they ain't caught him. Literally found the J6ers within 48 hours of them being at J6, like in their home states away. But they can't catch this guy. I get where the narrative's going, and I'm sure that people will just gobble that up because people are, I don't want to say they're celebrating it. They're kind of celebrating it because...
Oh, yes, we've been seeing it. We've been seeing celebration all in them comment sections right now.
Yeah, it's like United Health, and United Health especially, okay, has been notorious for screwing people over repeatedly. And there were people in my comments on X where they were like, I can't even believe that you're talking about this in this way now because he's not even cold yet. But listen, if you expect me to waste one iota of energy on feeling sorry for this man, I don't care that he was a father. I don't care that he was a husband. This man built his $1 million empire on the backs of the sick and the dying. Kids didn't have, I don't care. How many stories have you heard of parents who were fighting insurance companies for medications, life-saving treatment for their very ill children only to get denied? Parents have lost their children because they couldn't afford the treatment because insurance wouldn't cover it. I don't care. Specific mourning period that I need to have for when things like this happen, those days are long gone. Like there's no political correctness in this anymore. I don't have to wait. I can talk about things in a conspiratorial manner as quickly as I fucking want to. That doesn't make me a cold-hearted person, and that doesn't make me mean. It makes me awake. Because the longer that you wait to start looking into things and to start looking things up, the faster they get swept under the rug and the faster they get removed from the internet.
With that information, I will say, man, that's very horrific for somebody to sit there and deprive families of being able to obtain health care or to be able to get the proper medical attention that they need because they're getting denied from people like him, and he's just ripping millions upon millions away from people, and his millions are gained from that. I think that's extremely corrupt for sure. Now, we also have this that popped up. This is credible. There is credible evidence. Let me start this over by saying this is alleged because I can't confirm anything. Matt Wallace says there is credible evidence that Nancy Pelosi had Brian Thompson unalived to hide her potentially illegal activity with Palo Alto Networks, one of the companies tasked with investigating a cybersecurity breach at United Health. I don't know much about that. We got Ian Miles, who wrote former WAPO and NYT journalist Taylor Lorenz has put out a hit on a female health executive, Kim A. Kink, in order to get her unalived hours after Brian Thompson was gunned down by an assailant who had the words "deny, defend, and depose" written on. What? All right, so I had to leave that to go do some digging. Yes, she's a journalist who said we want these executives unalived. Taylor Lorenz melts down in extended celebration of the UnitedHealthcare CEO's murder. Former Washington Post and New York Times journalist Taylor Lorenz did everything but throw a party after UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian was gunned down in the middle of Manhattan on Wednesday morning. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch said that the shooting was not a, quote, random act of violence. end quote, and instead had all the hallmarks of an assassination. Quote, I want to be clear at this time, every indication is that this was premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack. Tish said. Despite the fact that Thompson leaves behind 2 sons and a wife who said she was shattered by her husband's murder, Lauren saw calls for celebration, and celebrate she did on Blue Sky. In her first post referencing Thompson's death, she shared a post about how Blue Cross Blue Shield, one of UnitedHealth's competitors, will no longer pay for anesthesia for the full length of some surgeries. And some people wonder why we want these executives unalive. Now, I ain't trying to be all soft here, nothing like that, but I just don't think it's in good faith to be celebrating anybody's death. I'm just not that type of person. You know what I mean? And that's with general context there. You know, there's some extremes that we all might be able to agree on some, hey, bruh, but just being a decent human, I'm just like, nah, man. But learning about this man's past, I will say this is truly awful, dog, if all this is true.
This might be the story that unites all of us Americans. It's got something for everybody. Now, before I go on, I just want to say that this was a real human being with a real family, and we shouldn't be celebrating anybody's offing. That being said, a lot of people are. These comments are quite joyful, one might say. Possibly warranted, because UnitedHealth is quite an awful company. Here they're denying coverage, also overbilling people, all kinds of shenanigans. But let's talk about the actual crime here. Was this a hit or just some disgruntled person whose coverage was denied? 80-90% of online commenters are saying this is a professional hit job. The New York Times also indicates premeditation. This guy apparently knew exactly where he was going to be and waited for him for a long time, which leads us to possible motivations. Shipwreck dissected this beautifully this morning. Basically, the CEO, Brian Thompson, was under investigation for potentially defrauding investors. He and other executives had insider information that they were under investigation by the DOJ because the company was getting involved in some sort of monopoly scheme. Here's when that investigation started. Insiders started dumping shares, including Thompson right here on February 16th, 2024 for a tune of $15 million, right before the news came public and the stock took a nosedive. And with the stock price jumping up after this news was announced, it's hard to argue that the shareholders were not happy, or not unhappy. We're happy. They were happy. And guess who happens to be the top recipient of United Health Group's lobbying dollars? It's none other than Kamala Harris. Another stick it to you from everybody else who wants to pile on to the most unpopular presidential candidate in U.S. history. So on one side, you got the working class laughing at this news because they hate CEOs and they hate how corporations run America. And on the other side, you got the ruling class, the shareholders, apparently pleased because he defrauded them of their investment. Well, one final note, I almost forgot. This is also great for independent journalism. Some guy on the internet who tracks city bikes, he apparently was able to trace which city bike dock the shooter left the bike at before the police knew even what was going on, and made that information public. Meanwhile, legacy media is regurgitating the exact same talking points over and over because they're too lazy to do any original reporting. Anyway, I think the theme here has to be anti-corruption, right? If you are a fiduciary, don't defraud your investors. And if you're an insurance company, don't deny coverage to your customers. And we can all just kind of live our lives in peace. I think America is ready for a redemption. Let's all be a part of this change.
His Twitter handle or X handle is 5149 James Lee. Lee spelled L-I. I thought that was an incredible take, and honestly, I really don't even know how to follow up with that. Shout out to him for doing real investigative reporting. Okay. And like he said, he was a human being at the end of the day who had a family. And I feel for any family man who loses a father or whatever the case. But I also will say that I completely disagree with the actions of this man if this is all true.